This is a little story I put together for a class. I submitted it to Arcade Magazine, so it's called Outside the Old Grasshopper Plays. I hate this time of year. The hill's so crowded with everybody stuck in all winter, and I'm a light hibernator. I'd rather be out in the field with my claws in the dirt. Most of the colony looks down on us working girls, but I don't care. I couldn't stand to be stuck in the colony all day, like one of those damn drones. Lazier than the good-for-nothing grasshopper. 8 already, I sigh to no one. 8 times I've dug my way out. 8 times I've felt the first cold day of fall. 7 times I've slept the restless cold sleep. 3 or 4 more and that'll be it. I'll be left down in the dirt. I see it happen every winter. The cold starts to slow them down until they stop. Every fall, somebody's marching down into their crypt, the old women say. If you work hard in the summer, you'll be able to dig your way out next spring. They would tell it to us when we were playing and weren't supposed to be. Now I catch myself telling the young girls that. I always hang out by the entrance to the hill this time of year. My first winter, I was so scared when the colony got sealed up. The older girls teased me and called me a larva, but it was so dark and cold. I cried myself to hibernation that year and had terrible nightmares. The next winter, I told myself I wouldn't cry, but it was still so tough knowing I was stuck in the ground all year. Ever since then, I spend the last weeks of the fall watching the sunset. Even though I can feel the cold tugging at me, pulling me towards sleep, I stay as long as possible until I can see the moon swallowed up by the soil. Scanning the horizon as it's getting covered in twilight, I notice a shape coming from the direction of the field. I watch it lumber over, slowly getting clearer as it approaches. Feels like the season should have passed by the time I can make out exactly what it is. These eyes never did see well, and the years haven't helped at all. As I get a clear look at him, the grasshopper sits down outside the hill, like he had so many times on his bale. I look him over. The year has been tough on him. He sits down like he's afraid the ground isn't going to be there. Once he's finally seated, he looks over my way and smiles, then raises his leg and starts itching, just like he had out in the field. He looks pretty worse for the wear. Last spring he flew out onto the field like he was the queen's chosen drone. Now he's hobbling around like it's halfway through hibernation. Do you got a rash or something? At this he stops, head tilted. He looks directly at me. All of his eyes focused on me. Very deliberately he rubs his leg along the length of his wing, holding the stare. He seems to be looking for my reaction. Is he just trying to piss me off? Are you just trying to piss me off? If you've got to do that, could you take that mess someplace else? You're ruining the sunset. He sits up, studying me. Soon an easy smile returns to his mandibles. He points to his thorax and shakes his head. He seems to want to say something, but I can't smell anything, so I just shake my head too. There in the cold, we sit watching the shadow of the horizon approach the hill. He points back towards the field, then turns to me and claws at the ground. Yeah, I work over in that field. He smiles and nods. How come you always sit out by the field while we're working? To this, he points at me, claws at the ground. Then gesturing to himself, he starts itching his wing. As I stand watching him scratch himself, all I can think is what a total waste of wings it is. What is your problem? We've got to watch you sit out there and itch yourself every day while we work. Now you come to our colony and sit here doing it. You eat our hay and watch us all sweat in the dirt like some pervy old drone. I hope you've got a good spot to get through this winter, because once they close up the hill, you won't be seeing any of us till spring. Sadness fills his many eyes. When he first showed up to the field, I was so excited. I thought a guy his size would be able to make our jobs a lot easier. But right away he started bouncing around, scratching his wing. The only time he'd stop was to grab some straw. Some of the girls thought he was funny, so they'd leave him food in the mornings. After a couple months, he settled down. Seemed like he got tired sooner. By the end of the summer, he'd just sit at the edge of the field, itching himself and watching us work. But anytime one of the girls would glance his way, he'd perk right back up, start scratching like when he first showed up, as best he could. Standing, I tried to decide whether I want to tell him off some more or just skip the whole thing and get settled inside. Suddenly, a piece of dirt from the opening comes crashing down right behind me. Workers on the closing job started moving clumps of soil around early to get it all set. The sound startled me more than anything. From fear, I jumped out of the entranceway. After I settled my nerves, I noticed the grasshopper is eyeing me from his stump. Now, outside the hill a little further, we're much closer than I had ever been to him. With great effort, he stands up from his spot. This close, at his full height, he's much larger than he ever seemed across the field. I'm barely more than knee-high to him. He gestures me closer. I don't really know why, but I take a step in his direction. He isn't planning on eating me, right? Grasshoppers don't eat ants, right? He waves me closer still. Something about the sadness I saw in his face a moment ago, and the hope that seems to have replaced it now, makes me take another step into the cold. I'm within his reach now. Gently, he takes hold of my claw and places it on his wing. Then, as I had seen him do 100 times before, he brings his massive leg up and runs it along his wing near where I'm holding. The vibration spread through my exoskeleton like a drink of water. I look up and I see a multitude of myself reflected in his eyes. Close like this, I notice for the first time the rough calluses on his wing where he rubs. Back and forth he saws at his leg and the vibrations continue. I begin to feel a greater hold than just the sum of its parts. After what feels like an eternity in an instant, I take my claw off his forewing. Later, I will wake from hibernation. The hunger pangs will drive all the ants out of the hill, digging towards the spring like I had 8 times before. I will escape the soil and make my way out to our little patch of dirt. Beginning to work the dirt with my claws, I'll look to the edge of the field where he sat. Across the field, there will be a new grasshopper bouncing and itching. Faintly, carried in the breeze, I can feel his song.